Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Commonwealth Club. You can find the Commonwealth Club online at commonwealthclub.org, on Facebook and Twitter, and on the club's YouTube channel. My name is Philip Yun, and I'm the Executive Director and COO of the Plowshares Fund, and I'm a former official at the U.S. Department of State. I also have the privilege of being your moderator for today's program. And I also wish to note very proudly that this program is being held in association with the Korea Economic Institute of America Ambassadors Dialogue Program. And I think you all have been doing the tour here in the United States to great reception from the folks who have heard you so far. So thank you for being here. So let's start with the program. Following President Trump's second summit with North Korea's Kim Jong-un in Vietnam, what does the future hold for relations between South and North Korea, as well as between both Koreas and the United States? Today, we have a rare opportunity to visit with two ambassadors closely involved with these issues. We will discuss today the economic and political relationship between the United States and South Korea and the outlook for diplomacy with North Korea and the region writ large. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's distinguished guests. Since August of 2017, His Excellency Cho Yoon-jae has served as ambassador to the Republic of Korea, colloquially known as South Korea, to the United States in Washington. Prior to his current position, Ambassador Cho served as special envoy to the European Union and Germany, as well as ambassador extraordinaire to the United Kingdom. He was also an advisor to President Roh Moo-hyun on economic policy. As one of the most prominent economists in Korea, Ambassador Cho previously served as senior economist at the World Bank and also taught at Georgetown University. Ambassador Cho is also an emeritus faculty member at Sogang University Graduate School of International Studies in Korea, and he holds a PhD in economics from Stanford University. Welcome, Mr. Ambassador. Applause. Since 2018, Harry Harris has served as the United States Ambassador to South Korea. Ambassador Harris previously served as an ambassador in the U.S. Navy, holding the position of Commander, U.S. Pacific Command. He graduated from the Naval Academy and went on to receive master's degrees from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and Georgetown School of Foreign Service. From January 2017 to April 2018, he was the Navy's longest-serving Naval Academy graduate still on active duty. Additionally, Ambassador Harris was the first Asian American to achieve the rank of admiral in the U.S. Navy. He has served every geographic combatant command region, meaning he served pretty much all over the world. And he has received numerous personal decorations and honors, including the Defense Department's Distinguished Service Medal, the State Department's Distinguished Honor Award, and the Republic of Korea's Tong-il Medal. Please welcome again Ambassador Cho Yoon-jae and Ambassador Harry Harris. So with this format today, what we're going to do is I think both ambassadors were going to have short opening remarks to sort of set the table. We'll then have a series of questions that we have put together with some of the contributions of you all and other questions that you may have as well. As you hear their remarks, please feel free to give them to me and I'll work them as best I can. And then we'll move forward on that. So I think we had a coin flip of some kind. Ambassador Harris is going to go first, please.
Okay, thanks, Philip, for that overly generous introduction. And after that, even I'm interested in what I have to say. So let me start by thanking the Commonwealth Club and acknowledging KEI and Ambassador Stevens and congratulating the Commonwealth Club on this magnificent building. Wow, it's about a year old, I think.
Yep.
Right. And it's a pleasure and honor for me to join distinguished Korean Ambassador Cho Yoon-jae to speak with you during such an important time in the U.S. ROK, Republic of Korea relations. During critical moments such as these, I applaud the Commonwealth Club that connects San Francisco with the world, always mindful of your goal to find truth and then to set it loose. As we face the challenges that lay ahead, it's important that Americans from every walk of life recognize the ways in which the world is changing so that an informed citizen can help our nation prepare. So, ladies and gentlemen, after several years in Hawaii, my wife Bruni and I relocated to Seoul last summer. And let me tell you, there's no more dynamic place to serve as the U.S. ambassador and no better partner for the United States than the Republic of Korea. I've loved every day of my time there so far, including kimchi and tteokgalbi and bibimbap and soju, especially that soju thing. And you haven't lived until you've drunk beer and eaten chicken in public in 100 degrees weather in Daegu during the Chimek Festival there. So this year, we're celebrating the 66th year of the U.S. ROK Alliance, which serves as the foundation for peace and prosperity, not only on the Korean Peninsula, but in the region as well. Our alliance has lasted generations and will continue to thrive for generations to come, as long as we together nourish it, embrace it, and resource it. So the breadth and depth of our relationship extends far beyond just security. The ROK-U.S. alliance is dynamic, and we built a multidimensional partnership reinforced by shared values, shared concerns, economic interests, and underpinned by deep people-to-people ties. Trade is obviously a key pillar of our alliance relationship in the 21st century. Korea is California's sixth largest trading partner in both imports and exports, with over $25 billion in bilateral trade. Korean companies have invested in California with nearly $2 billion in foreign direct investment. Korean tourists spend an estimated $1.5 billion a year visiting this beautiful state. Our people-to-people ties, which in my opinion truly sets this alliance apart, continues to thrive and grow stronger. If we just look at California, there are over 10,000 Korean students studying here, adding over $400 million to the California economy. And it's not just college students. I'm told that over 500,000 Americans of Korean descent make California their home. That is a lot of votes. Now, I'd like to highlight the historic events in the last year that have placed our nation and our alliance in a position for even greater outcomes. And this will set the stage, I think, for a lot of what we're going to talk about today. Building on the trust that President Trump and Chairman Kim Jong-un established in Singapore last year, we made progress in Hanoi last month. Now, we didn't reach an agreement with the DPRK or North Korea, but we've exchanged detailed positions, narrowed the gap on a number of issues, and made clear that the United States expects complete denuclearization before sanctions relief. The U.S. remains ready to proceed in parallel with denuclearization with concrete steps to transform the U.S. DPRK relationship and establish a long and lasting peace regime on the Korean Peninsula. We're also working closely with the ROK to achieve our shared objective of the final fully verified denuclearization of the DPRK as committed to by Chairman Kim in Singapore last year. Now, in this post-Hanoi summit, we're looking to President Moon Jae-in of South Korea to work with us in persuading Chairman Kim to come back to the table with substantive and significant proposals that lead to the full and verifiable denuclearization of the North. President Trump has left the door open for continued talks to come out of Hanoi last month. Now, though the U.S. ROK alliance is essential, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our alliance with Japan, which is also very important. And it's vitally important that our three nations together enhance our security cooperation as we continue to send a unified message that North Korea must fulfill its obligations and promises to denuclearize. Looking further afield, the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy is built on our belief that the Indo-Pacific nations should be independent, strong, and satellites to none. We need to unlock private investment and infrastructure and keep sea lanes and airspace free, open, and secure. The Moon administration's new Southern policy shares many of the same goals as our Indo-Pacific strategy, and we look forward to working with the Blue House as we move ahead in these areas. Over the last 66 years, our two countries have laid a strong foundation upon which we constructed an alliance and myriad connections that were once unimaginable. the coming decades will take us even further. So with that, I'll stop and yield the microphone, I guess, over to my colleague, Ambassador Cho.
Ambassador Cho.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yoon and Ambassador Harris. It's always a pleasure to be back to Bay Area. As I was introduced, I had a privilege of studying at Stanford many years here in Bay Area. And I left Stanford about 35 years ago. But ever since I left the Bay Area, I always missed San Francisco and the Bay Area. And it's great to be back. And this is my first time of using this type of a microphone. I feel like I became a K-pop today. I hope I would be as popular as they are. I have been traveling with Ambassador Harris and Ambassador Stevens over the last 1 week. We visited Atlanta, Georgia, and also we visited Austin, Texas, and San Francisco is our third destination. And this morning we visited Korean War Memorial in Presidio, and it was really special and moving. Especially, I laid rest there with my counterpart and my good friend, Ambassador Harris. And I met many Korean war veterans. I was born myself during the Korean War in Busan, and I met with Mr. Stevens this morning, who arrived in Busan even before I was born. And Korea's U.S. alliance was forged in the Korean War, forged on the blood during the Korean War. And the Korean people have never forgotten the sacrifice of young American soldiers, and will never forget young American soldiers' sacrifice. Owing to their sacrifice, now we developed into one of a successful liberal democracy and also prospering industrial economy. And U.S.-Korea, ROK-U.S. alliance has been the backbone for the peace and the stability of the Korean Peninsula. And without that, South Korea would not be able to enjoy the prosperity and freedom where we are standing. And throughout this trip of the last 1 week, it was really delight, especially because I traveled with Ambassador Harris and Ambassador Stevens. I have enjoyed it very much. And through this travel, I again could confirm that most important factor to our strong bilateral relationship is not just our government cooperation or military alliance, but it's a strong people-to-people tie. And I could say everywhere we visited, there is a strong partnership between our countries. And I really appreciate to have this opportunity and appreciate to meet people here in various states in United States, and especially this opportunity of meeting people of Bay Areas. So I look forward to having a good discussion with Ambassador Harris and Mr. Yoon.
Okay, thank you. So I know everyone here really is very interested in what's going on with North Korea, but I'm going to put it on hold and hold you in suspense for a little bit, because I think what I wanted to start off with was really, again, what our ambassadors led off with the U.S.-South Korea relationship. Having been somebody who has been involved with the Korean Peninsula for most of my professional life, I can't think of, in my opinion, how important this alliance has been. So I wanted to open up this conversation and the questions a little bit more, which is what you opened up with, which was the South Korea-U.S. alliance. And so, Ambassador Harris, here in the United States, there is this stream of isolationism. And there's been this whole notion that we want to retrench back, and there's always been a conversation periodically in this country that U.S. troops and U.S. Engagement in Asia is one that is not important. So why don't I ask you, from your perspective, why that is not the case? And I think you'll find a sympathetic audience here, but I think it's worthwhile for you to reiterate some of your views and those of the U.S. government.
Sure, Philip, thanks for the question. I think that a lot of the sentiment that is embedded in the question is based on this idea of U.S. first, America first, and is that the right or wrong thing? And I believe that U.S. first does not mean U.S. alone. I think that we've made it clear, certainly in the Pacific, that our alliances matter. The United States has only 5 bilateral defense treaties in the whole world, and they're all in the Pacific. And Korea is key in our alliance relationships globally and in the Pacific, and the other alliances are Japan, Australia, Thailand, and the Philippines. And I think that, again, that we've been clear and forthright that our alliance with the Republic of Korea matters. It matters on a fundamental level, and it goes well beyond security, and it touches all aspects of our lives together. So I'll stop there.
Okay. So, Ambassador Cho, maybe from your perspective, as both of you have alluded to, the U.S.-South Korea alliance is really more than a military alliance. It involves shared values, shared prosperity, commitment to democracy. So can you talk from your perspective, again, why this relationship is so important to you, your country, and in a sense, what areas you think we should be working on or we are working on in order to deepen and broaden it?
This relationship, Korea-U.S. relationship is absolutely the most important relationship to Korea. As I said, Korea-U.S. alliance has been the backbone of the peace and the prosperity in Korean Peninsula, my country, and beyond, beyond the Korean Peninsula. Our alliance started 66 years ago in 1953 as a security alliance, but over time it has evolved into broader and deeper partnership, economic partnership, and partnership in technology development, and also global partnership. Korean soldiers participated in all major wars after the Second World War with U.S. soldiers shoulder on shoulder in Vietnam, Iran, Afghanistan. And also we have expanded our economic partnership. As Ambassador Harris mentioned, we could witness that in every place we visited, Georgia and Texas. And here, California is the largest state and the richest state of the United States. And the United States is our second trading partner. And Korea, I understand, is the 6th largest trading partner to the United States. And our trade with California, it takes more than 20% of our total trade with the United States. And here we have many Korean companies invested, and I hope contributing the prosperity of a Californian economy. And the Korean companies here are producing from steel to dumplings by CJ. And we have Samsung Electronics Research Center here nearby Silicon Valley area. And also we have a Hyundai Kia's Car Design Center in Los Angeles. I think we can do more. Now in this rapidly integrating global economy, I hope to see more U.S. investment coming to Korea, and also more Korean investment coming to California as well as other states in the United States. And I'm sure it will come. So we can further strengthen our economic partnership. We are also, I guess, have a great room to expand our global partnership in enhancing the women's economic opportunities, and also in space, and also IT technologies, cooperating to advance to third countries to build their capacities, and also international healthcare systems. I think we have many, including cybersecurity issues. So we look forward to expanding our relationship. I mean, beyond what we are now, which is already very, very strong.
So one of the questions we just got from the audience. So we know both of you and myself included, strong advocates for this relationship and continued strength. We know that we should never take things for granted. Are there things that we can be doing, or I wouldn't say really worried about, but what can we guard against, or what can we be doing in that sense that we, for folks here to make sure that this relationship stays strong? Is there something that you would have people do or to guard against in certain respects? Doesn't have to be very long, and we'll just something comes to mind at all.
Sure. I'll say that we have to guard against complacency. We have to guard against the idea that, well, we've been at this for 66 years and it's just going to continue on its own accord. It won't on its own. That's why I talked about in my opening remarks that we need to invest in it and resource it and be committed to it. Otherwise, it'll go the way of many other things in history. So I would say that complacency is the thing that we have to guard against as a nation, as the United States and as the Republic of Korea.
As I said, that people-to-people tie is perhaps the most important for friendship between our country. And as Ambassador Harris said, Korea is sending a lot of students here. Korea is sending the third largest student body here, following China and India. But in terms of per capita, I think we are sending the largest number of students here. And out of those students groups, we are sending about 1/4 or even more of students to California. And this helps us to share the value and to share the common goal. But I think we can do more. We can do even better. And also we have a big Korean American community in the United States. U.S. estimate and the Korean estimate is similar, but some difference. According to our estimate, we have 2.5 million Korean American live in United States. Again, California is the largest home of Korean American community here. Now, Korean American communities, the first generation has been busy in settling down in this country and also raising their children. But now the second generation and third generation of Korean Americans has become very, very successful. I'm very proud of Mr. Yoon as well. second generation, and they are contributing more to mainstream U.S. society. As a diplomat, I have been mainly engaged in my friends in Capitol Hill and the State Department, White House, and various government agencies. But now I feel that I have to expand my efforts to strengthen our ties with the state government too. And I really appreciate Ambassador Stevens and KEI for organizing this ambassador dialogue and giving such opportunity. I think that is a big and almost boundless opportunities we can further strengthen our relations. And the key, I think, is enhancing the people-to-people tie and friendship. And I would like to do more on that.
Okay, thank you. So let's move to North Korea, which is the big topic. So a lot has happened in the last year and a half. We went from the beginning to fire and fury, and some concerned about even some kind of military action. And then suddenly gears have been switched. We have this flurry of diplomacy, which I think it's good to say that South Korea was heavily involved in all this, as it should be. Your President Moon Jae-in did a lot to kickstart all of that. And as someone who has been critical of this administration, I am fully supportive of President Trump's approach to do something a little bit different. I mean, U.S. policy up to a certain point has failed, mainly, and it seems that if you continue to do the same thing as you've done over the last 20 years that has failed, trying to do the same thing, expect a different result isn't going to work. So I applaud the president in terms of his approach. That being said, the assessment of the summit, I think, has been mixed at best. There have been criticisms coming from both directions, which in certain ways means you're doing the right thing. Despite advice to the contrary, some say President Trump overreached. Others say Kim Jong-un was not flexible enough. And in the end, both walked away with no deal. Now North Korea seemingly is starting to hint at a more ominous path, sort of talking a little bit about possibly restarting, although nothing has been done. Having been in these negotiations at these levels before, oftentimes there's another story involved, and there's a lot that's not quite revealed. So here's an opportunity, I think, is sort of a twofold question for you both in a sense, and I will ask you my question a little bit differently, but for Ambassador Harris, so can you tell us maybe for this audience a little bit background in terms of, what happened, as best you can tell us, because there have been conflicting reports, and then what do you think is going to happen, knowing that predicting what North Korea is going to do is always a difficult thing.
Yeah, I think it's probably the fundamental question, right? But I take exception. I disagree with the idea that the President Trump overreached. So my background, as you covered in the introduction, was I was the U.S. Pacific Command commander up until last summer. So in 2017. In November of 2017, at the last ICBM test that North Korea conducted, that was a pretty tense time, and we were involved in all kinds of planning efforts and stuff like that. And in 2017, I could not have imagined, in my wildest fantasies, could I have imagined that the sitting president of the United States would have a meeting with Chairman Kim Jong-un in person and walk away amicably. But that, in fact, happened. It happened in Singapore last June, and then it happened again in Hanoi last month. So I don't believe that the president overreached at all. You could look at the number of times his predecessors have met with the chairman of the North Korean of North Korea, and that would be zero cumulative over 60 years. So I think the fact that they had a meeting at all is laudatory. I think also the fact that we haven't seen a provocation, a nuclear test, an ICBM test, or anything like that since November of 2017 is significant. So my takeaway from Hanoi is that I'm glad it happened. We didn't reach an agreement at Hanoi as we hoped, but both parties departed amicably, and we, the United States, have left the door open to North Korea for continued negotiations and discussions. The ball is in Kim Jong-un's court, and he's going to have to. He has choices to make. We all have choices to make, and he has a fundamentally important choice to make about his country. I think that clearly he now understands what the United States' position is with regard to the commitments that he made in Singapore. You know, he committed the agreement in Singapore involved four things. It involved a transformation of the U.S.-North Korean relationship, work for a peaceful regime on the Korean Peninsula, complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, and a continued effort to recover the remains of soldiers and troops lost during the Korean War. And so he now understands what complete denuclearization means. And now, again, he has time to reflect on that, and he has choices to make. So I think while the Hanoi summit didn't achieve the outcomes that we hoped, the fact they met at all is a plus, and the fact that he Kim Jong-un, now understands what the United States truly wants and expects, I think that's a positive. And I prefer to dwell on the positive instead of the negative and move forward with that.
So, Ambassador Cho, within that context here, not that oftentimes South Korea has insight with respect to North Korea, which I find actually very, very useful and unique. And at the same time, you are involved in inter-Korean dialogue, which I think is a really important piece of the U.S.-North Korea sort of dialogue that's going on. And in certain ways, that has proceeded, although it's sort of abated a little bit, it went very quickly, and then the U.S. negotiations proceeded very quickly. What do you think is North Korea's sort of objective in engaging South Korea, and how do you see the U.S. and the United States coordinating their work, or what are the things that they have to be worried about, both the United States and South Korea?
As you know, that when President Moon took office in May 2017, he consistently sent a message to North Korea that we want dialogue and we want to resolve these nuclear problems through diplomatic effort. And at that time, as Ambassador Harris mentioned, many people worried about the possibility of the war, and very rough rhetorics were exchanged, fire and furies. And for South Koreans, war cannot be an option at all. We had a very disastrous war 7 decades ago, and we do not want to repeat that war again at all. The only option we have is to resolve this problem through peaceful manner. So President Moon, as soon as he took office, sent consistently the message that we are prepared to have a dialogue and we are prepared to have cooperative relations. And our goal is not the collapse of the North Korean regime, but a peaceful coexistence. And he made this message clear when he visited Berlin, and then in various occasions. And then Kim Jong-un, the chairman Kim, replied to this message in his New Year address of 2018. And he took the window of opportunities of starting dialogue by sending his athlete to Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, which were held in February last year. So from there on, dialogue process started, and we exchanged the special envoys. And then over the last 1 year, within last 1 year, we had 3 inter-Korean summit meetings, which were unprecedented. And also historic U.S.-North Korean summit. And again, including Hanoi, we have seen 2 U.S.-North Korean summit meetings, which was really historical. Through the exchanges of special envoys, North Koreans gave us the message that Chairman Kim wants to meet President Trump and want to start a dialogue with the United States. So our special envoy, about this time last year, visited here, and I went to brief the result of our special envoy's visit to Pyongyang to President Trump. And then President Trump decided to have the first historical summit meeting. Now, since the Pyeongchang Olympics, as you mentioned, Mr. Yoon, that our progress in dialogue and meetings has gone quite fast. But we understand the ultimate goal of North Korea is to improve the relationship with the United States. And through us, actually, Korea, we think we should play the role of facilitating the U.S.-North Korean dialogue. And to me, it's very clear why Chairman Kim wants dialogue and improvement of a relation with the United States. Because without improving relationship with the United States, North Korea will continuously be isolated, and they would not be able to improve their economic situation at all. Now the relative dominance of the United States in the global community has somewhat reduced since the Second World War, but still, U.S. is absolutely the most important country in the world. And U.S. Dominance in the financial service network, dollar is your money, but at the same time, it's international currency. And the U.S. is controlling, well, I should not say controlling. Without the U.S. approval, I worked in the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Nothing can be done. Okay? So to North Koreans, without improving their relation with the United States, they cannot be integrated in the international community and the global economy. So I think North Korea's goal to open dialogue with South Korea and with the United States is the same. Actually, they want to get out of isolations and try to improve their economic situations. And for that, they know clearly that they have to denuclearize. So that's why I believe that Kim Jong-un committed denuclearization several times clearly, and then started a dialogue with South Korea, and through that to United States. And now we started this, what we call is a peace process over the last 1 year. Depending on how you see, we may go fast or slow, but in my view, this train is already on the move. Okay? And nobody wants to jump off this train. So I think we need to be patient and try our best in keep this train moving. And for that goal, common goals, and my country and the United States is 24 hours tight coordination and collaboration. So I'm hopeful that we would have some progress in this process.
So there's a conversation that's always been that has occurred with the United States about North Korean intent. You alluded to it in terms of, do they really want a fundamentally new relationship with the United States? As such, are they really willing to give up these nuclear weapons, yes or no? Ultimately, when people ask me that question, I say, I don't know because I'm not North Korea. But what we're all involved with is a hypothesis testing exercise here to see if, in fact, you can structure a deal, and I personally believe you can, to find out what North Korea's true intentions are. Okay, so that is what people, when they ask me, what about North Korean intent? The questions that we've gotten here has to do with military exercises, which I thought was really interesting. So, Formal Admiral, Mr. Ambassador, let's talk about the military exercises. General Brooks, Vincent Brooks, who was head of U.S. Forces Korea, said he thought Kim Jong-un wants a different relationship. And he talked positively about the military exercises being postponed. Okay, people here are concerned, is that a threat to U.S. or South Korean interests? You putting on your military hat, give us your perspective on why that seems to be a good idea, maybe what the parameters are around that, and then, Mr. Ambassador, you tell me from the South Korean perspective how you may feel as well.
So on military exercises, I testified before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee last June. I was asked specifically about the postponement of the two big exercises that we had announced last year, Key Resolve and Ocean Freedom Guardian. And what I said last June was we could afford a hiatus in those exercises for a while to give space for diplomacy to work. And that's, in fact, what we did. This year, we have resumed joint training with the South, with the military forces of the Republic of Korea, though the scope and the scale of those exercises are smaller than they have been in the past. General Abrams, Bob Abrams, who took the reins of U.S. Forces Korea, Combined Forces Command, United Nations Command from General Brooks last fall, has stated just last month that the new exercise series that we've started with the Republic of Korea, it's called, I'm going to not get this pronunciation correct, but it's Dongmang, which is the Korean word for alliance, that those exercises, that series which we just completed, was adequate in ensuring that the U.S. and Korean forces could operate together. Now that's important that General Abrams said that because as a four-star Army general who spent his career training formations of troops, for him to say that he is completely satisfied that Dongmang achieved the results to ensure that the U.S. and Korean forces could operate together against any contingency, and he said you could take it to the bank. And I would say, as my vast experience in diplomacy, 8 months, I would say that if he can take it to the bank, I want to make a deposit because he knows of what he speaks, and I think we should listen to what General Abrams says. So I'm comfortable with where we are with our exercise program with the Republic. I'm comfortable that the military forces of our two countries could respond to any challenge posed by any threat anytime. And so we will continue to do these exercises at a smaller scale, and rightfully so, to give diplomacy a chance to operate.
So South Korean perspective on this.
You can trust the former Navy admiral. That's a comment. Absolutely, I agree with Ambassador Harris. Before I comment on this military, let me add a little bit on your first part of questions. Whether North Koreans indeed want normalization.
Right.
Right. I believe so because, in my view, I think they would see no other way of achieving better economic conditions for their people. And also, this North Korean leader is in the mid-30s, and he has to think about next 30 and 40 years. And then, to his eye, I believe there is no other way that he can deliver better economic life and to legitimate his power in North Korea without delivering, without improving his economic situation, and for that, without improving or ultimately normalizing relation with North Korea. The problem here is deep mistrust that built over the last 7 decades through keen military conflict and hostilities. And the question is how we can overcome those confidence problem and mistrust. But I'm sure that's what they want. But of course, we have our common shared goal, and our job is to induce him and also to push him to achieve that goal. On this military exercise, I fully agree with Ambassador Harris that we have consulted and discussed this quite long time since we opened the dialogue with North Korea. It didn't just come as a surprise. We, in the both military side, has consulted and discussed this for a long time in advance of the announcement. So it was not just the surprise decision, but discussed through top military levels. And also, I understand that they agreed and they had a common conclusion that this would not compromise our military preparedness. This is, as General Brooks said, is to support ongoing dialogue within the framework that this would not undermine our military, joint military preparedness. So I think that's what they decided, and we fully support their decision.
Right, let's switch some gears. This will touch on North Korea, but let's go to some regional players here, perhaps as it relates to North Korea or perhaps not. A lot of questions about China, some about Russia, some about Japan in this context. So Ambassador Cho, I'll go to you. in the past and even today, there's a tendency to assume China holds the key to affecting the North Korean behavior. There's a question here that said directly, is North Korea a Chinese puppet? And so where does South Korea see China playing a constructive role, and in what manner?
I don't think it's the right observation to call North Korea as China's puppet. There has been tension for a while, I think, between North Korea and China. And Korea is one of a few countries, together with Vietnam, which sustained independence and sovereignties among those which located in peripheral of China. Now all the other countries were ultimately observed to China, but Korea and Vietnam, perhaps, we maintains our independence and sovereignty. And that is the tradition of Korean people, and I guess that is same in the case of North Korean people. Of course, they are very strong friends of China, and as the U.S. sent so many young soldiers to South Korea during the Korean War, Chinese sent perhaps even more number of soldiers to North Korea, and had more loss of life. So that strong relations, I think, continues. But North Korea, I understand, is always tried to maintain their own independence, some way or another. Now, China's calculation on North Korea seems to be somewhat complicated. Now, China does not want North Korea to be a nuclear power. China is one of a P5 country, and they don't want to see other countries in Asia to develop the nuclear program. So they want to push North Korea to denuclearize. At the same time, they don't want North Korea, in my view, collapse, or North Koreans' economy being too weakened. So I guess that's the complication of China's strategies to North Korea. And so far, I guess China has been playing a quite constructive role in having concerted effort with the United States and South Korea and the international communities to push North Korea for denuclearization by joining these international sanctions, UN sanctions. And China's role is especially important because China takes about 90% of North Korean trade. So unless China's support on this campaign, this international sanction campaign cannot be successful. And so far, I think China is, the effectiveness of these sanctions, the estimate varies, and we do not have a full figure to what extent this is abided by. But I believe China has been trying to support this effort.
So, Ambassador Harris, okay, so we know that there are larger issues between the United States and China. We know that the United States and China are in the midst of a trade war, negotiations ongoing. We know that there are larger geopolitical issues and potential conflicts between the United States and China. And when you were CINCPAC, head of Pacific Command, you were fairly outspoken on some of those potential areas of conflict in the South China Sea and other areas. So how could that larger geostrategic effort affect the U.S.-North Korea negotiations? Do you feel they can be partitioned and separated? Do you have concerns?
When I was a PACOM commander, I was highly critical of China, as you stated, Philip. And I used to say, we're going to cooperate where we can, but be ready to confront where we must. Yep. Now, in this new role, what I say is that we'll cooperate with China where our interests overlap, but we will vigorously compete in all other areas. And I believe that there are areas that we should hold China to account, and we will vigorously compete in those areas such as freedom of navigation, freedom of overflight over international water and international airspace, in human rights, and in trade. We believe in free, fair, and reciprocal trade, and that's the core of the contest that we now have with China, this issue of reciprocity and fair trade. That said, I believe that we can and should criticize China and those areas where they are in competition with us and infringing on human rights and things like that. At the same time, we can applaud, and we should applaud, those areas where China is doing good work, such as sanctions enforcement and equal insistence on denuclearization of North Korea. And I believe that China, as a great power, can walk and chew gum at the same time. They can and should have those discussions with us in those areas that we criticize them, just as they work with us in those areas that we go forward together, such as with North Korea.
So let's see, we've got some, I want to try to squeeze in a couple more questions and one final one. So Ambassador Cho, there was a question, a couple of people were struck by your comments about women empowerment and some of the things that South Korea is doing. And they wanted you to discuss the dynamics around women empowerment that you alluded to earlier. What initiatives are the U.S. and South Korea have in place now, and what are they planning? And there was a sort of side question you can choose to answer or not that related to Park Geun-hye, President Park Geun-hye, and her stepping down. Has that been a setback for women empowerment in South Korea? So you choose what you want to answer. And then Ambassador Harris, I've got one question related to technology and the relationship with South Korea.
Actually, you know that in Korea, women's participation in various areas has been quite low, but it's changing very rapidly now. Now, in foreign ministries, the young professionals recruited every year about 100, I guess more. Majorities these days are women. And even all these civil servant exams and also for the lawyers, the majorities are women. So although right now our current women participation rate may be quite low, in the future, Korea could be one of the countries which has the strongest women's participation in various key areas.
So we have a couple minutes, so we just wanted to remind you. Yeah.
Okay, and then for these U.S. partnerships that now White House is emphasizing on these women empowerment issues, and the World Bank is also joining that, and we contributed a lot of trust. We are contributing a lot of trust fund, $10 million or more to World Bank and to work with the United States. And based on our experience, we also want to work with the United States on this issue.
Okay. So, Ambassador Harris, question, without being in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, we wouldn't have a session without talking about technology, right? So the question raised the general sense of technology, its impact in our lives in the United States. We talked about AI, 5G, big data, analytics. And, South Korea is a leader in technology, and as well as the United States. So the question was, what are, in the short time that we have, sort of the how are the United States and South Korea working together on this to address, what are the not only the positive aspects of technology but also the negative ones?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question, especially for this area. So yesterday, Ambassador Cho and I and our teams went to visit FireEye in San Jose, Milpitas area, which is a cybersecurity firm, a large international cybersecurity firm with a large presence in South Korea. I think that it's, and they're trying to get their arms around this issue of big data, 5G and all that, because with all of the opportunities and excitement that advanced IT brings, it also brings big challenges and big opportunities for nefarious actors to operate in. And that's what FireEye and other companies like that are about. Korea will become the first full 5G nation in a month, in April. They're going to go 5G across the nation. And there's a lot of opportunity for the United States to learn from them. We cooperate and work with the Republic on areas like AI, 5G, and in space technology. I spent a lot of time out looking at the General Motors plant at Bupyeong and the Hyundai plant in Namyang, and look at the autonomous vehicles and how that's going to be instantiated not only in Korea but elsewhere. And then we spent time together, Ambassador Cho and I did, in Georgia at the Kia plant, and in Texas at the Samsung plant. Samsung has more patents than any other than in history, I guess, over the last year or so. They've been in Texas now for 20 years, $17 billion investment. It's a huge American presence now in Texas because of Samsung. So we work very closely with the leading technology industries and firms in South Korea. And that's one of the cool things about being the U.S. ambassador there. So thank you for that.
Great, great. Unfortunately, we've reached the point where we have to end our program. Our thanks to His Excellency Cho Yoon-jae, South Korea's ambassador to the United States, and Harry Harris, United States ambassador to South Korea. Thank you. I want to also thank all of you, the audience here, the audience on radio, television, and the internet for being with us. The questions you gave me were outstanding. I integrated them into our conversation as we went forward. Thank you for that. And again, this program has been held in association with the Korea Economic Institute of American Ambassadors Dialogue Program. Thank you, Ambassador Kathy Stevens, for being here. I'm Philip Yun, and now this meeting of the Commonwealth Club, the place where you are in the know, is adjourned.